Hola, hola, hola. Sí, sí.
Hola.
Hola, buenos días a todos.
Hello, good morning everyone.
Bienvenidos a
Welcome
esta
to
jornada
this
temática
thematic
sobre los
day
vinos
around
y el vino en
Vikings
Galicia.
and wine in Galicia.
Esta jornada
This
está
day
organizada
is
por la
organized
Asociación
by
de Amigos del
the
Capítulo Serenísimo del Albariño y
Friends
las
of
Baixas
the
y el Concello de
Suriname
Cadoda.
chapter of Rías Baixas Albariño and the town of Kadoda.
La Asociación de Amigos del Capítulo Serenísimo del Albariño y las Baixas
This association
agrupa a miembros a nivel internacional
has members of international level with experience and influence in the world of wine and culture. They've been organizing for more than 60 years the Albariño Wine Party, which was declared of international touristic interest.
El Concello de Catoira lleva 61 años.
The town of Kadoda has been organizing the Viking Festival for 61 years, which was also declared of international touristic interest and is a member of the Destination Viking Association, a body which represents more than 60 partners from 16 countries and that is managing the European cultural itinerary called the Viking route.
En esta jornada que comenzamos ahora,
Today,
tenemos distintos puntos.
we have different points in the agenda. First, we will have a welcome by the mayor of Kadoda. Afterwards, we will have a book presentation of the book The Vikings in Galicia. His author, Eduardo Morales, will be giving this presentation. Then we will have the presentation of the Destination Viking Association by Ole Madsen. Then we will have a Wine Albariño presentation, which will be made by the sommelier and director of the Galicia Wine Academy, Jorge Vila Fernández. Around 12:30, we will try to stick to the timetable. We will have Albariño wines tasting. And then we will have our day finished by Luis López Dieguez, who is a regional delegate of the Xunta de Galicia in Pontevedra. So, just starting, we would like to thank the mayor of Catoira, Alberto Garcia, for being here, and we will ask him to do this welcome that we were talking about. So, let's clap to him. We are in our home, in your home, actually. I will just take out the mask to talk. Good morning, everyone. Ole and Mr. Morales, Jorge Vila, Mr. Toris of the Vila Garcia Authority, and ladies and gentlemen. Again, people from Catoira are giving to know the relationships between Galicia and Scandinavian countries for the reader to know them. In this edition, in Galician, Spanish, and English, we are introducing the projection of a Galicia that in centuries was the most known part of the Iberian Peninsula and the northwest of Europe. This book is giving the Galician and Scandinavian reader a better appreciation of history and culture of Europe. I would like to make a reference of the Viking Festival that is managed by the town of Kadoda and is a member, our institution, of the Viking, European Viking route. This is the second route in importance after the Santiago's Way. This route was made by the Vikings and then by other people. First they started in Palestina and then they came to Iria Flavia first to loot this part and then to reach Santiago de Compostela, which then became the end of the Camino de Santiago, of the Santiago's Way. In the Oeste Towers, we would like to highlight of them that they were constructed to defend this part from the Viking incursions. Centuries later, we are still remembering about those raids and about those moments in a party that is not only a party. We also take food in and other cultural events related to it and to the towers themselves. The first Sunday of August is this disembark. In this event, 50,000 people from all over the world participate and is a symbol of fraternity among peoples. I would also like to reference the legacy of Diego Shelmírez, who was the son of Kadoda and Sir of the West Towers, of Oeste Towers. And in the 12th century, he put Galicia in the center, around the Santiago's ways. For more than 40 years, Eduardo Morales brings us with this book a deeper knowledge about the historical events that relate us to the Vikings. Morales has been a true partner with the Kadoda town because he has organized seminars around Vikings and also has advised this mayor with the different fraternity encounters that, for example, with the Museum of Ships in Denmark and other parts of England with Watt and Somerset, for example, and he did that in an altruistic manner, and for that I would like to thank him because he was, as I said, very altruistic, and we thank him for that. And the Viking invasions led to the reconstruction of 3 Viking ships, which is exposed in the Roskilde Ships Museum, then in Roskund. Inspired by the Gostan, a ship that was found in a funerary site in Norway. And then the Hourglass, Kadoda, a replica that was recently fabricated with glass with fiberglass and is from the Scandinavian site also, and that we can also visit. Then we have the activity of the Activation Cultural Museum Oeste Towers in Kadoda, where we can find information about the different routes, the different incursions, and all their cultural heritage. And exactly when was the tower reconstructed to protect it from the Viking incursions. And this was made to let people know about our heritage, both within Galicia and outside our borders. I would like to finish by saying, as I always do, that I want this book to make recent generation and future generations to know about the role of Kadoda in history. I would like to thank you, and I will give the floor to the rest of the speakers. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for introducing this compromise from the City Council to express and let this culture of Kadoda be known by people. And now we will proceed by a video showing of a presentation of the Romería Vikinga, this Viking festival.
Un aplauso.
As we've seen, here in Kadoda, parties are well celebrated. And we enjoy very much, not only us, but also people who assist the parties and people who can imagine to come to the next festival that is going to be celebrated here in this town. So, as the mayor said, now we will jump in the book presentation, The Vikings in Galicia. We would like to ask kindly Eduardo Morales to please come to the floor. He is the former Chancellor of the Spanish Embassy in Denmark, archaeologist and researcher, author of numerous articles and publications on Scandinavian culture and the Vikings. Thank you very much for letting us have your presentation of the book. Thank you very much. Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank all those present for attending the presentation of this book. Even maybe some of you came only for the wine tasting. I would like to thank Alberto Garcia, Mayor of Kadoda, two things. First, for organizing this event and invited me to this presentation, and second, because it was him who took the initiative for me to write this book. For me, it was not a job, it was a pleasure to write about two subjects I'm so interested in, which are Galicia and the Vikings. I would also like to thank Mr. Ole Madsen, director of the Stavanger Archaeological Museum and president of the Viking Destination Association, for his presence at this event. This summer, as every summer since I came to live in Spain, I went to Denmark to spend a few months with my family. A friend archaeologist like me had told me that in Copenhagen was going to be launched an exhibition on the Vikings, and he wanted to invite me and his wife, who is also an archaeologist and specialist in the Viking Age. Normally, when I go to an exhibition, I like to buy the catalog to know in advance what I'm going to find and which pieces I want to see more in detail. But when I went to the bookshop of the National Museum, they told me that there was no catalog and they doubted that it was going to be published. So the day of the visit, I didn't know what I was going to find. The only thing I knew were the reviews published in the newspapers, which were all very positive. It was an exhibition that was out of the traditional pattern of this kind of exhibition. It was very advanced and modern, and new technologies played a very important role in it. The exhibition had given the name Top Get, which means something like the expedition, which was the central theme or thread of the exhibition. When we entered the exhibition hall, the first thing we encountered was the huge iron frame that replaced the missing parts of the ship Roskilde II, the largest Viking ship found to date, with a length of more than 37 meters, which could carry a crew of 100 men. It is obvious that the presence of this ship was intended to emphasize the nature of the exhibition, showing the vehicle used by the Vikings for their tokter, their expeditions. I'm not going to describe all the interesting exhibits, not all the recreation, but I'm going to focus on the part that by means of audiovisual montages recreate a specific expedition. It is about the expedition that Bjorn Ironside, the son of Ragnar Lodbrok, perhaps the most famous Viking chief of all times, made against Galicia in 858 AD. In this expedition, Bjorn was accompanied by other famous Viking chief, Hasting, or Hasting, as he's quoted, depending on the sources. The central theme of this exhibition is the Great Viking Expedition in East Galicia. Galicia is part of what we could call historical memory of the Viking period. Galicia is a reference point in the history of the Viking expedition to southern Europe. Today's Scandinavians feel a great fascination for the Mediterranean Sea, one of their favorite places to spend their holidays. The Scandinavians of that time, the Vikings, also felt a singular attraction for the Mediterranean. Galicia wasn't a compulsory stop on their route, and obviously they did not miss the opportunity to stop and try their luck. And what were the Vikings looking for in Galicia? Undoubtedly, they came to steal and plunder. And one of their reference points was obviously Santiago de Compostela, where they supposed that a rich looting could be found. They already had experience from their raiding expeditions to Ireland, England, or France that in religious enclaves or centers a considerable amount of valuable objects and precious metals could be found. But there were, of course, many other prey that the Vikings coveted: slaves and, of course, female slaves. Many to be sold in markets and others to work on the farms in Scandinavia. Especially young women must have been in great demand. I remember one summer when I was spending a few days in Oslo, and I remarked to my companion that nowhere in the world had I seen such a concentration of beautiful girls, and he laughingly replied that the Vikings had obviously kidnapped and abducted the most beautiful girls. They weren't going to take the ugliest ones, and the consequences of this contribution of beauty to the Scandinavian population had resulted in a huge percentage of beautiful girls. Another of the products coveted by the Vikings was undoubtedly wine, which in Scandinavia was only available to the richest and most powerful. To be able to host invitations and banquets with wine raised the prestige and the reputation of the hosts. Some time ago, I read that in the archaeological excavation of a Galician settlement from the 2nd century, pips of Albarino grapes were found. So when the Vikings arrived in Galicia, 7 centuries later, this wine already had a long tradition. There is no doubt that the Vikings had a great appreciation for wine. In the excavation of the resident place of the kings of Denmark during the Viking period, grape pips grown in Denmark have been found, and it is not unreasonable to think that the Vikings could have planted vines and made wine in Scandinavia, as the climate of that time was warmer than today. Before returning to Spain, I went back to the National Museum in Copenhagen and saw that they still had not published a catalogue of the exhibition, but they had published a book in connection with it. The book had been given the same name as the exhibition, Totget, with the subtitle On a Journey Through the World of the Vikings. Of course I bought it. As expected, the book covers the attack of Bjorn Ironside to Galicia, and in the bibliography there are 3 publications commenting on it. One of my books, published in 1997, Os Vikingos en Galicia, Vikings in Galicia, published in Galician by the University in Santiago. Another published in 2004, The Vikings in the Iberian Peninsula, published by the Queen Elizabeth Foundation of Denmark in Danish and Spanish, in which Professor Vicente Almazán, who is very known here in Kadoda and has a great collaboration with this place, wrote the part corresponding to Galicia. And then we had another reference to 2004, also a book of mine, Historia de los Vikingos en España, History of Vikings in Spain, published by Miraguano Ediciones. And now, to finish, a few words about this book. First, I have tried to present Scandinavia, the cradle and place of origin of the Vikings, to give us an idea of the living conditions and the environment of these men, as well as the reasons that drove them to undertake these expeditions, and the means they used to do so, mainly the Viking ship, an essential element for their activities, both peaceful, such as trade, or warlike, such as the pirate expeditions or invasions of conquest. The Viking attacks on Galicia and the rest of the Iberian Peninsula, I believe, can be interpreted as a natural continuation of the attacks and occupations of the Vikings on the coast of Atlantic Europe in the unstoppable expansion until they reach Galicia. In this book, I tried to give an overview of the Viking attacks on Galicia between the 9th and 11th centuries, based mainly on Andalusian, Hispanic, and foreign sources, which narrate events in which Galicia is present. Following the thread of the medieval chronicles, often very brief and fragmentary, I've tried to reconstruct the process of the different attacks and invasions of the Vikings that Galicia suffered through the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. Some were short and fleeting, others of longer duration and with dramatic consequences. Some with anonymous protagonists, and others led by famous Viking chiefs, as in the case of Bjorn Ironside in 858, or the attack in 1014 led by Olaf Haraldsson, a notorious Viking chief who later seized the throne of Norway and was deposed in 1028. When he tried to regain the throne, he was defeated and killed in the Battle of Stiklestad in Norway on the 29th of July 1030. Although he had the murder of bishops and other church servants in his resume during his Viking raids, Olaf was declared a saint after his death, perhaps in recognition of having established Christianity in Norway, even if it was with the sword. The impression I have gained from the events of several centuries between the Vikings and Galicia is that it was the local people, sometimes led by their bishops, who had to substitute the sword for the staff, who fought the Scandinavian invaders until they were driven out and expelled. And it was not the case in Ireland, in England, where the Vikings were settled permanently. There is no doubt that Viking attacks on many places in Europe, including Galicia, brought death and destruction to the attacked populations. But at the same time, Vikings promoted trade, opening new routes, and acted as transmitters between different peoples of Europe in the fields of culture, art, and navigation techniques, discovering new worlds and colonizing new lands. They even reached America. And for some feminists, it may come as a surprise to discover that in the countries of fierce Vikings, women enjoy considerably more freedom than women in civilized and Christian Europe. In Scandinavia, women could detach from their husband easily, and also they could inherited goods, and they could do with their lives as they wanted. The presence of the Vikings in Galicia promoted the construction of defensive bastions located in strategic places. In the city of Santiago itself, that was surrounded by fortresses, the towers of Honesty, the fortress of La Lanzada, the tower of San Saturnino, and others. Also, the presence of the Vikings accelerated the development of feudalism in Galicia. And that was why, because the sirs and the bishops had to turn to people, noble people, that were prone to take arms against the Vikings. So that gave more status to these people, these feudal people who fought Vikings. As an appendix to these events, we have the Viking Festival in Kadoda with the participation of 3 authentic Viking ships with landings of warriors whose mission is not to destroy but to fraternize with the pilgrims and the warriors and contribute to strengthen the cultural ties between Galicia and Scandinavia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Eduardo Morales. Thank you for your presentation and the introduction about your book. We loved it. It is great to be able to know this history better. This is history that has happened so near. They came to invade us and to take away our women, and now they come here in a more peaceful way. So we're really glad to continue with this good relationship with the Viking world. We have here a great expert, Eduardo Morales. So if you have any questions for him about the presentation he just made or about anything connected with the Viking history, and he's a great expert, so please take this opportunity because it is not common to have a person with so much knowledge about this topic so nearby to be able to ask questions. Do you have any questions for the speaker? Yes, I'm going to give you the microphone. So, what do Denmark or the Scandinavian countries think about a festival like this, where you celebrate the invasion of the invader? What do they think about this festival? Well, many people are really shocked because a Viking festival is held in Galicia. And they believe that a dramatic event from the past is relived in the present with a different hue, with friendship, and to bring Galicia closer to the Scandinavian countries. And for them, it is also a new festival. And I know that thousands of Scandinavians come to see the Viking Festival. So this is just another excuse to disseminate our capacity to help these tourists and to give them a chance to get to know our culture and our territory. So we do celebrate the invasion of foreigners in that festival. I believe it's very appealing for that culture, and they are willing to come and know us. So, do you have any other questions? Alberto Garcia, the mayor. I'm going to give him the microphone for translation purposes. Well, Morales, what you just said is very interesting. In the National Museum, we know from Copenhagen, they have been developing this exhibition, this invasion of the Vikings in 1858. And I think it is a good advertising of Galicia in Scandinavia to promote Galicia and to disseminate its culture. So this exhibition, so when you go back to Copenhagen, please go back there. And we'd like to know if it is possible to bring that exhibition over to Galicia, in this case, Kadoda, or maybe to the capital city of Galicia, Santiago. And then we will be able to get to know that expedition because it was very important. It is very important to promote Galicia in Scandinavia, in this case in Denmark. Well, this exhibition in Copenhagen is the biggest one that has ever held about the Vikings. It is a huge exhibition. They have put a 37-meter long ship in the exhibition, so this is an exploit in and of itself. As far as I know, the exhibitions that have been held about the Vikings for some years usually started at a site, could be Stockholm or Copenhagen, and then they would be moved to other European capital cities, Berlin, London, or Paris. But from what I heard, this exhibition will continue for 3 more years, and and the content of the exhibition will be changed. I don't know if they will keep a guiding thread to connect the 3 exhibitions, or maybe they will introduce new topics. I don't know exactly, but in this exhibition, Galicia takes a priority place. Okay, I wish. Well, maybe not the whole exhibition because it is huge, as I said, and some parts are not really connected with Galicia, but the main part that refers to Galicia, maybe once it is finished in Copenhagen, it could travel to other capital cities, but the National Museum will have to decide that, and according to my experience, they plan some years ahead, especially an event of this nature. So I don't know about their plans, the plans they will have for this exhibition once it's finished, whether it will go to another capital city. I don't know what they are going to do. Well, it could be a great chance to bring it closer. Yes, we can look into it. Good idea. Maybe we could bring just a piece of the exhibition over here to Galicia. And I guess that moving pieces that are in a museum is always complex, but it could be a great opportunity. Yes, and it's very expensive, especially the insurances of all the pieces. You need a lot of money. Luckily, in Denmark, there are many funds supporting culture, and the government doesn't have to pay a lot of money in these things. There are always many funds that are willing to finance. First of all, because you get a tax relief because of that, and that way they can make their products appealing. Well, it's something we should learn from. Maybe we could get those private funds to collaborate to take care of culture and history. So thank you very much, Mr. Morales. Do you have any other questions? Yes, we have another question here. Hello, good morning. I have a question. With respect to the Vikings that migrated west, they went to the UK and Ireland. In the case of the UK, they conquered 3/4 of the island. And in Ireland, what were the reasons that hindered their presence in Galicia so they could establish a kind of new Normandy? Well, both in the UK and in Ireland, the Vikings were not alone, so to speak, in their conquest. There were some groups that were with the Vikings against their own cousins, so to speak. So they were divided into different kingdoms in England. They would fight with each other, and some of them took the opportunity for the Vikings to be there, and then they joined them, and then they would fight the opposite kingdom. And in Ireland, likewise, there were different clans that were fighting each other all the time. And the Vikings took this opportunity and they established the kingdom of Dublin. A large amount of Viking kings married or lived with local women that belonged to wealthy and powerful families, and that way they were able to keep their position and their alliances there. And in Galicia, where we didn't have that issue in Galicia because Galicia was all united. There were no internal wars. So they didn't have that opportunity to establish alliances or partnerships with other groups, and Galicians were ruthless in their fight against the Vikings. They would not stop until they kicked them out, not just with the Vikings, with the English, with the French, with everyone wanted to invade us. Galicians have always been good fighters to defend their land. Now the invasions are nicer, more touristic, and we're really glad to be invaded in a cultural manner. Thank you very much, Mr. Morales. And now we're going to watch another clip. It is a clip about the road show.
Procuro te un lugar, egil scala Grimson, no campo de batalla.
Also the chairman of the Destination Viking Association just this year. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for being with us. And now we're going to give you the floor. I'm going to give some indications for the translation, for the simultaneous translation. You all have a translation device with a headset, so you have to plug the headset into the device, and then you have to switch it on. It is very simple. There's a switch key here at the front.
Entonces enchufamos los cascos, pulsamos este botón.
So we use this button here, and on the side you can choose the channel. You have to choose channel 1, which is the Spanish channel for the translation.
Si escucháis en el canal 1 el castellano, todos, o si tenéis... Encantado.
So you have the floor now, so we're really glad to have you here. And now we give you the floor. Big applause.
tourist destination focusing on the Viking world. Apart from partners in Scandinavia, the Scandinavian homelands, there are members from the rest of Europe, including the UK, the Isle of Man, Ireland, Germany, and Kadoda here in Spain. From the North Atlantic, we have members from Faroe Islands, Iceland, Greenland, and Newfoundland. And from the Baltic Sea, where there were a great Scandinavian impact during the Viking times, we have members from Finland, Latvia, Poland, Estonia, and Russia. Quality is a keyword for the destination Viking. As a visitor, you expect quality at every level. And our aim is to secure that. Quality means quality of activities, presentations, workmanship, sites, food, souvenirs, in short, quality in experience. We want all infrastructure to be well-functioning, sustainable, and appealing, and we expect everything to be based on academic research and being accurate, including oral presentations, replicas, reconstructions, and reenactment. The Destination Viking Association has been appointed by the Council of Europe to manage the Viking cultural route, which is now branded as Follow the Viking. Important here is marketing of the route towards tourists and other visitors, and ensure that the site of the route are well signposted, easily accessible, and well-functioning. DVA Destination Viking Association members should cooperate with national, regional, and local destinations and incoming companies. Local and regional authorities is also really important, and the importance of the cooperation between the authorities and the private sector. Kadoda is one of the best examples of this. Through this cooperation, you will ensure that the attractions are known and easy to find and can be used. Destination Viking Association was formally established in 2007 with the first Ordinary General Assembly in Haugesund in Norway in 2008. Jimmy Moncrieff, the director of Shetland Amenity Trust, was elected as the first chairman of the association, a position he held until his death in 2017. He was followed by Edmund Sotworth, director of the Manx National Heritage, who retired in 2021, and then was followed by me as the chair of the association. The secretary was hosted by Shetland Amenity Trust when it was transferred to Archaeological Museum, University of Stavanger this year. It is important for us to have enough money to develop the organization, so we are trying to get the costs for the administration down, not to use money on that. So therefore, the Archaeological Museum took over the administration of the association. Before the foundation, the Destination Viking Association, before the foundation of the Destination Viking Association, there were 3 EU projects which brought together Viking partners from around the world, or Europe, with a common theme, Viking. This was the North Sea Viking Legacy project from 1999 to 2001. It was a Destination Viking Baltic Stories from 2002 to 2005, and it was the Destination Viking Sagalands from 2002 to 2005. I will not here go into these projects beyond pointing out the importance they had for Viking heritage sites, for the Viking stories, for the Viking trails, and for the cooperation in Europe. After this project, the project partners continued to work with each other on the Viking team, and most of them joined the Destination Viking Association in 2007. As mentioned, one of the key elements for the Destination Viking today is the Viking cultural route. The cultural route program is based on a partial agreement of the Council of Europe. The program was originally established in 1987, and the Viking route was accredited in 1993, being one of the oldest routes. Only the Santiago de Compostela, the pilgrim routes, accredited in 1987, and the Hansa route are older. The cultural route existed before the foundation of the Destination Viking Association. The original route was developed by the organization called Viking Heritage, with the archaeologist Dan Carlson from Gotland in Sweden and Alwyn Owen from Scotland. And it was presented in the book Follow the Vikings from 1996. With the organization Viking Heritage, when the organization Viking Heritage faded away, the Destination Viking took over the route in 2011. The Viking route became more real when the Destination Viking took over, because many of the Interreg project had signed trails, and many of the important Viking sites with the logos, and it was decided to continue to use the Destination Viking as a brand for the Viking route. Closely connected to the Destination Viking Association is the Follow the Viking project, as we have seen a movie of today. It was a big project of 4 million euros with 15 partners from the Destination Viking and from 8 countries. This project is now finished, but many of its products and results are followed up by the Destination Viking Association. The project had several elements. All should contribute to making the Viking route better known. The largest element was the road show. The Vikings are coming. It was a theater performance based on the Norse stories, the myths, and the mythology. It was set up at several locations around Europe, including, as we have seen, Kadoda here in Spain. The project, with its many elements, tied the participants closely together. But it also took a lot of effort and for the organization. And now we have to concentrate on the partnerships for the destination and to build a stronger partnership. What is the main activities for the destination? I think one of the most important parts is for us to marketing the cultural route and all of its components, and the website is a really important part of this. Here, every member is shown on an interactive map, and there is a detailed presentation linked to each point of the map. News about events Facebook is really important for us also to communicate sites and also events coming up. But to get this, we really need help from all the partners and members, so to update the information on the site. We also have this great Jugend and Union journal, and we try to publish this journal on a regular basis and have a specific geographical or thematic areas as a theme. Normally, the annual general meeting is presented in one issue, and all members are really welcome to present ideas for the journal. And we also include regular newsletters for the members with internal information. We have this annual general meeting once a year, which is really a good meeting place for all the members. We have on the annual general meetings, we also have a forum to discuss among colleagues and also to broaden our knowledge with site visits, presentations, and discussions. And seminars and courses are also part of this both an annual general meeting and also other seminars which the members are invited into. We also encourage all the members to cooperate through EU-funded programs like Erasmus+, and also trying to coordinate larger projects for several members through programs like Culture Europe program. I think one of the most important aspects is that both scholars and administrative people from the tourist business is finding each other through the organization, and that we have a common route that we all cooperate through. We see that we have a big job to do for our members. The members and the whole of Europe and the whole of the world have all been hit hard by the coronavirus. Cooperation internationally has been really difficult. We do need a restart. In this situation, as I told you, we take the responsibility of the secretary, and so we can start to concentrate on building and improving the quality of the digital presence to build the concept even better of the cultural route. Currently, we are working on the website to make it more attractive for our visitors to visit and use. We have commissioned an audit of the current site, and we have received many useful comments and ideas for improvement. Ben Bailey, member of the board, is our representative for the cultural route. Ben has also done a big job to revitalize the Facebook site. The organization is getting active and visible again. We are proud that we managed to publish a new edition of the magazine Jugend og Munin, and it's really good reading. We are also now establishing a new scientific committee based on recommendation from the Council of Europe. Next year, the General Assembly will be held in Stavanger in Norway in June next year. It's in connection with the 1150th anniversary for the Battle of Hafrsfjord, where King Harald Finnher had the victory, and And this battle has been the symbol for the unification of Norway. The annual general meeting will be a part of a wider program with visits and activities, both concentrated on Avaldsnes and in the north of our municipality and in the town of Stavanger in the south. I am looking really forward to the rest of this seminar and to next August, when you here in Kadoda are planning a seminar on the links between the cultural initiators of the Viking route and the Camino de Santiago, as well as a study of the route between the Kadoda and Santiago de Compostela. Thank you again for inviting me. Thank you for this seminar. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Un aplauso. Bueno, muchísimas gracias por... Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí, por acompañarnos y por explicarnos
for explaining to us the tasks and the works. Now, you hear me? Yes, perfect. Thank you very much for being here, for joining us, for participating in this event, and for explaining us the different tasks and works done by the association in this time, and also the European project that you've been developing, and that surely is going to be more projects with European funds will be developed that would enable us to continue this coordination work among all these countries, and for these projects to be developing new routes between these areas that are joined by the theme of the Vikings. I would like to give the opportunity to some of the attendants if they want to raise any questions, taking advantage of your presence here today. So if you have any questions, anybody? We are shy in Galicia. I don't know if there are going to be any questions, but on my part, I am part of an association, the Galician Sailing Activities Association, and we are very interested in developing sailing routes with a Phoenician thematic, also related to Santiago's Way, and we are also interested in following this thing with the sailing cultural routes with the Viking theme here in Galicia. And even we could maybe contact some colleagues in Portugal who could be interested in this theme in these areas. So we keep in touch because we think it's a great opportunity to have these cultural European heritage roots to preserve this culture and this history that we share. So I hope we will keep in touch on our part. So let's clap for the present of Mr. Ole Madsen. So I think Morales has a question. Let me give you the microphone. If not, it's going to be difficult. Maybe it's not a question, but it's a proposal. During many years, the female Viking was in shadow, and we haven't seen her. We have always seen the warriors fighting against each other, and I think it is time for the women Viking to come to light, for their role to be studied during that time, and maybe it's one of the themes or the areas that the association could take in the future.
Was our new archaeological exhibition at our museum. In that exhibition, the women are in focus. The whole exhibition is focusing on the women who stayed back and what role they had in the society. So I think, but we do need to present this for the whole audience of the Viking Association. But if you're coming next year at the annual general meeting, you will really see it. But we can also use more of it on the website. And you also got one impression today in the booklet you got. So yes, it's a good idea to shed even more light on the women.
Muy interesante esa apreciación. Y además muy de actualidad.
And it is also very current, this gender component, and to be able, in a way, to re-give this role to women who were as fighters, as warriors, as others, and many of them preserved and helped preserve culture and history. So we also think that it's a very interesting input and maybe a new project related to the women role in the Viking period and also afterwards. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any other question, and if not, we will be having a break of 10 minutes. I would like to give our thank you to our speaker. So we have 10 minutes until 12. I hope that you leave the translation devices there.
A las 12 en punto proseguimos con el siguiente ponente. Así nos da tiempo a preparar la sala para la cata posterior.
And at 12 we will be coming back for the tasting. Thank you very much to all. So 10 minutes break.
agua, si puedes, para mí. Hay aquí debajo. Hay aquí, Manuel, gracias.
Bueno, pues proseguimos con esta estupenda jornada.
So let's continue with this themed day about Vikings and wine in Galicia. And after having spoken about Vikings with two experts, now we will talk about wine. Jorge Villar Fernandez is with us today. We have an extensive CV. He was a founder and director of the Galicia Wine Academy. He's a telecommunication engineer. Sometimes you make mistakes. Mine was huge. It's a very difficult degree. He was titled with distinction in the level 3 certificate of the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, and also homologated by this body. Also, he got an expert degree by the University of Ramon Llull. Also, he had a recognition in marketing by the University of Oxford. And he has a recognition of many wine denominations. And he will be speaking today maybe for around 45 minutes that we have for this talk and for this wine tasting. So the floor is yours. Very kind. It's a pleasure to be here and to share this day dedicated to the promotion of our Viking roots and the connection with wine. It is obvious for many of you that there is a true connection with wine. We are in the Ria de Arousa, in the estuary, and this is the deepest part, and almost to hear the the protected denomination area, Rías Baixas, is almost up to here, and Rías Baixas denomination has almost the same characteristics as the one here. So some of the characteristics of the wine are also, or can also be applied to Kadoda. Allow me today to start with some history. There is a phrase that says that in a bottle of wine there is more history than geography. History is important to know wines. Here in Rías Baixas we have more than 1,000 years of wine production. For some people, may not seem as big, but it's a significant amount of years, and that shows our connection with wine. The most important part of our area of development is the wine area. It starts in the Middle Ages. The monks in the monasteries that were based in that area is very important because they take all the knowledge of the times and they develop the technification of that time. Armenteira is one of the most important ones. And in the 18th century, the wine starts going out from the churches and they go to the noble people because of these amortizations in the 18th century. The church has to resign from their goods, and the noble people take these properties, these palaces, pathos, that are producing wine. Around 20th century, Alvarinho wine expands over the whole territory. Even if I'm not from the Rías Baixas, I'm from Orense. In my house, wine was always being produced. And you know, it's very common that in red wine is mainly drunk in houses. So why white wine is around our vines. It's because of the success of Albarino wine around the half 20th century. So this is one of the reasons that makes us interesting as a market in Spain, because many red wines are well produced and there are good red wines, but there wasn't a competition in international markets to compete with these wines, these Spanish wines. So this is the niche that Albarino wine found and that made vines multiply around the territory. So in 1980, they turned the PDO changed from Albarino to Rías Baixas. And our difference is our territory, this area, so the PDO changed to Rías Baixas for that reason. So it's not the grape itself, but also the area. And that gives us character in the wine market, and that is important. There are around 4,000 hectares of production in Rías Baixas. Compared with Bordeaux, Bourgogne, the quantities are low. We produce around 3% of the wine that is produced in Spain. Is a small quantity, even if it's a big producer. 3 out of 6 areas, Salnés, Condado Tea, and Orrosal, are the main ones, and then we have Sotomayor and Ribera do Ulla are the last ones that were included. These 5 subzones are very similar, but they differ from the most warm places, and these differences in temperature make them more fresh, less maturity. But for example, they're warmer in Orrosal and exactly in Ocondado because it doesn't have a coastal part. So Ocondado is like the Ribeiro one of Rías Baixas, a transition from the Rías Baixas wines to Ribeiro ones. Then the altitude is also important. It's a maximum of 300 meters. And also we have sea level vines. Some of them are planted at sea. So, and those are very impressive and significant. And another characteristic is the small land area. In Burgundy, they talk about the small land when it's 4 times ours. So ours is these small lands, parcels, with 20,000 parcels and 6,000 wine producers. So one of ours is 4 times less the area than in Burgundy. So we have many little vines, very different from each other. This is the map of the sub-areas of the Rías Baixas PDO. I don't know if I have the option to point, but we are here in the area of Ria de Arousa, the northern part of the Red Stain, and then Salnés starts, then we have Orrosal, Ocondado, then Sotomayor, the small part, and then Ribera do Ulla. These 5 sub-areas are in the estuaries, in these rias that we have that make the ocean to be very close to the wines, and that is why their Atlantic influence is very important to these vines. So how is it our climate? Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it humid? Is it warm and balanced around the year or not? So that influences our wines. When we talk about Rías Baixas, there's a French concept that we can take, that is this terroir, kind of homeland sense. So which are the characteristics of our character as wine producers? First is the variety of grape, and that determines the style of wine we produce. Here in the Baixas, we produce the 36% of our 96% is Albarino. Then we have other varieties with different inputs that change the variety of wines. In wine grapes, we have Treixadura, Loureira, Godello, or Torrontés. In red grapes, we have only a small part, but with time is being producing less, as these ones you can see in the screen, El Pedral, El Castañal, many varieties, but not a lot of production of these varieties. Our red wines are very different from the wines that are produced in Spain. A red wine from Spain is from a Mediterranean climate, is powerful with structure, but our wines are more Atlantic, more fresh, less alcohol, and less intensity in that sense. This variety of grapes some of them are produced in really old vines. This is one of the oldest in Rías Baixas. They have more than 100 years, almost 150 years. And this makes our wine very characteristic and different. This is a vine that for sure has more than 150 years. We don't have a lot of them, but some of them give us more quality wines. An old vine is going to produce less wine, but is of a higher quality. And it happens in other areas of life, of course, as we grow older. How is the variety of Albarino? Albarino is defined as being a fruity grape. This intensity of fruit makes them very appealing and is part of the international success that has had. Is a citric fruit that can be more or less mature. But also we have tropical fruits as pineapple or grapefruit. Without acidity, we wouldn't have the freshness. White wines would be less fresh without that, and also the alcoholic graduation is important. Here we have to say the climate change is helping us. Regrettably, probably we will be too warm at some point, but now sometimes the maturing of the maturity of wine is becoming better because of that. Our rain level is very high, so that this plant is getting use of this land and of this rain is very interesting for us. Another characteristic is the soil, and the types of soil to produce wine are different around the world, and we have granite, which is one of the freshest. some sands of granites that look like small stones. That soil is cold. What does that mean? Some soils retain a lot of warmth. Slate is one of them. So if they give you, for example, with meat, this slate, they give it with this type of stone because it retains this warmth of the meat. But granite is fresh. When the sun is up, it's warmer, but then during the night, the temperature keeps being low. So that makes our wines to be fresher, to be more aromatic. These soils respect the characteristics and the personality of the variety, in this case, Albarino. Is a greater variation of temperature between the day and the night. And then the maturity is slow and progressive. We have more fruity and more intense smells. And then we have freshness, which is important to have high-quality wines. We've seen two parameters of the terroir, the soil and the territory, and also we have to talk about the climate. It wouldn't be the same if it was a warmer climate. How is our climate? We have an Atlantic climate. Temperatures are not very extreme. It's difficult that we go less than minus 10 Celsius degrees in winter, more than 30 in the summer. So it's not extreme. Then we have a very abundant rain, which is more than is seen in other wine areas in Spain. With more maturity, we can find wines in Orsal, or Condado. Then with more freshness, we can go to the Salnes wines. Look at this photograph. This is a vine almost in the sea, and it represents Albarino and Rías Baixas, because you can see that if the sea level rises, that can come almost to the vine. So this gives us a personality. Sometimes our wines are saline with salt. That when you taste the wine, it tastes almost like seawater. And this is because of the proximity to sea. Here you see the granite. We use it even as a construction structure for vines. These grapevines are made in a way that we elevate the vines from the ground. In the rest of the world, the vines are really close to the soil, because if it takes advantage of the condensation of the water of the soil that makes the plant to survive. But we have a lot of humidity. Sometimes it gives us sickness, even with fungus. So some sicknesses that come because of humidity. But we have other reasons also to, let's say, elevate the vines. Also, the historic reasons are important. We need the soil to produce other plants, to produce other products for them in that part. So like that we can produce both. With that, we have a place of these vines is capturing the sun rays that today maybe is not that important, but in the past it was really necessary. We've seen the soil, the variety, the climate, which is our style of wine and a reason to be recognized around the world, because those are fruity flavors like lemon, peach, or pineapple, or grapefruit. We will taste them now, and you will tell me if this is true, if those are fresh wines and they are not wines that you are not getting tired of because of that. They're aromatic. It's not common that we use timber to have these wines produced. If it's oaky or not, we don't need that aromatic, intense Albarino gain other aromas. So we make these inputs and we balance it with oxygens, because sometimes we don't want the wines to taste like timber. The fermentation is with timber in one of the wines, the third that we're going to taste, so you will see how it tastes. How to pair these wines? These wines are very well suited to have with food, probably if you have seafood, but other things, for example, any type of seafood would go well pair well with Albarino. Sometimes this seafood has some of citric, like lemon, so that pairs very well with the high acidity of Albarino. Then we have white fish and blue fish, maybe with simple cooking fish. Then we have also meat or cheeses with not a lot of maturity. And up to here, this is the explanation of what we're going to see in the glasses. But I would like you to make any question if you have of what we have said so far. For the translation, maybe we need. Sonson, where is more produced, in Ribeiro or here? Here. In Sonson needs all red grapes, but it needs a warmer climate for the production. So Condado is the most logical area and is produced more in Ribeiro. Now red wines, Sonson, Bracillabo y Caíña, are the combination of three that is used in the red wines from Ribeiro. Since when we know that Albarino has been produced? This is a discussion that has been taking place where the monks, maybe, a connection with the Riesling, German Riesling, but studies have shown that there is no connection with that. But since the Middle Ages, the production was developed, so the origin doesn't seem to be Central European. Any other questions? Any curiosity around Albarino? You have to take advantage of this expert being here. Any other questions? So let's go to tasting. Maybe with wine it will be easier. Maybe afterwards doubts will come out. So we have 3 wines on the table, 3 albariños. The difference among them is not variety, so the difference will be on the production. First you have foamy albariño, then you have an oaked, a young one, let's say, and then an oaked one. First, let's go to the first. The sparkly. It's the lightest, maybe. The darkest can be the third, maybe. The difference are the fermentation. So smelling it, you can tell me which smells are you sensing when you're tasting. It's almost impossible that if you're thinking of anything, it won't come out just like that. But if you imagine yourselves eating grapefruit or peach or lemon, so think about those images and see if you recognize any of those tastes here in the glass. Citric flavor, maybe a mature lemon, maybe. Maybe apricots. Maybe it's fresher than peach and you sense it. So in this wine, apart from the fruity part, there's the yeast part. These wines are made with the second fermentation inside the bottles, as is done with champagne or cava. So these little parts, these lees, are left in the wine. So we have these bakery parts like croissant kind of flavor. So you see the bubble is very small. This is made with the champenoise method. It's very fresh, good with a good acidity. I think that when you take with the first wine in the morning, the mouth hasn't sensed anything, so probably you see the acidity that is more intense. So the way of seeing acidity is looking at the salivation on the parts of the tongue, on the sides of the tongue. So salivation is higher. So because our mouth change of pH, so our tongue reacts salivating more to regulate this pH, to have this neutral pH that normally we have. So after a while, aren't you salivating more? That compels you to even swallow saliva. So that is why, that is because the acidity. Regarding alcohol, maybe you can detect alcohol here at the entrance of the do you think this wine makes your throat very warm? No, because it has around 11-12 degrees, so it's like a bit more like champagne, a less maturity wine. So it reminds us about those wines. So after sipping this wine, the sensation in your mouth is nice. And one way of tasting is which fruits have you eaten to have this sensation afterwards? So if you have eaten an asparagus, probably you don't have that sensation. But maybe if you eaten a grapefruit or an apricot or a kiwi, you will have kind of the same sensation in the mouth. So maybe you have a bakery sensation, a brioche or croissant sensation. Maybe you have that sensation afterwards. Or maybe apple pie. I don't know, maybe this maduration with lees.
A ver, está claro que el gas.
Well, yes, gas is quite refreshing in general, and in this case, in sparkling wines, there's something that is quite peculiar. We have a peculiar culture of sparkling wines. We usually take them with dessert, and this is not the most convenient. Most of the sparkling wines are very dry. They have low residual sugar, and with dessert, it is too dry. Not all of them are too dry. The driest ones are Brut Nature, but there are some others that are semi-sec and they have some residual sugar and they match the desserts. But this is a Brut. This means that it has some residual sugar, but not too much, 7.5 grams per liter. So it is better to have them with the appetizers, with ham, with some seafood in the first dishes. So at the beginning of the meals, even though we have some sparkling wines that can match full meals. Sparkling wines have always had some success because they are very appealing, the marketing side, aesthetic side. You might like it a lot when you see it. So that is why, while there is a strong consumption of sparkling wines, and it is still growing up in some well-known areas, but it is only logical. The consumption is growing here, and also in the Rías Baixas, we are starting for 10 years. We've produced sparkling wines, quality wines, but I'm sure that in the long run, we will be able to match them better and to make them with the highest quality, even better quality than today. Yes, this is what happens with wine. People will feel more encouraged to raise their hands and ask questions. Yes, the best pairing of wine is company. You cannot drink alone. So let's go to number 2. Number 2 falls into the category of Albarino, to which we are more accustomed. It is not a sparkling wine, no bubbles. First of all, let's smell the wine. So what do you think about the flavors? Are they fresher, more mature than the previous one? The fruit there is more ripened or fresher than the other one? It is slightly more ripened. For example, a plum, a yellow plum, or the apricot we mentioned before, some peach, slightly more mature. Well, it is only logical. So the first harvest is the one that is done for sparkling wines. So in this case, this one is more mature, so we'll have more body. And in the other one, you had a more fluid feeling, but in this case, we'll have another feeling. Before going into number 2, I'd like to show you the features of number 1. Number 1 is called Feitizo da Noite Brut. The winemaker is Pablo Padín, and it is in Dena. I think there's somebody here from there. And the variety is 100% Albarino. It is made with the traditional Champenoise method, with maturing of up to 21 months, with the yeasts in the bottle, alcohol content 12 degrees, and the dosage, the amount of residual sugar in the wine is 7.5 grams per liter. Apple, ripened apple, sugar, citrics, white flowers, toasted, pairing, appetizers, wild oysters, seafood, white fish. The second one is called Dandelion. Let's taste it now. Look at the feeling on the mouth, the salivation. There is salivation, but slightly less. You do not salivate that much. It is not so acid, and it has more body, maybe more weight in your mouth. It's more silky, not so fluid, more presence in your mouth. So this is thanks to the 7 months of maturity over lees, and once the fermentation is over, we can remove them, or we can keep the most delicate yeasts, and we can make wine with that, and then the lees will become integrated into the wine. So they give body to wines, and also complexity, some different tinges. So maybe the alcohol content has gone up slightly, 12.5, not much more, but it warms up your throat more. In terms of the aromas, mature citrics, but maybe more apricot, more peach, slightly more mature, some flowers. In this case, they could be yellow, more intense, and fresh grass. That is why it's so fresh on the nose. So we can pair it with boiled clams, seafood, fish, cheeses that are not so cured, and we can also use more fatty fish or some more intense makings. What do you think? Is it different from the other one? So, who wants to ask a question about this wine? This way? I think that it tastes like nuts. Yes, like almond tree or hazelnut tree. The other one, I think it was like licorice. Maybe not licorice, but yes, maybe some tinges of that profile. What do you think? I don't know much about wines, but I like Albarino. These Albarinos are complex, but they show different features. They are made in different ways. That is why we have to taste them. And the other thing about Albarino is that everyone likes it. Yes, it is a variety that it is very interesting to join the wine world. It is very fruity. It is like fruit juice. So that way, you don't get the tannic feeling or the vegetable feeling that we get from harsh red wines. So we also hear that about the German Riesling. It is a good way to enter into the wine world. Yes, in terms of the pairings, I didn't hear if you said that you could pair white wines with meat, with what meat, of course, but please confirm that. And the latest trend, even for red meat, is to have it with sparkling wines, with cafas, and because this highlights the aromas. Yes, of course, you can have Albarino with white meat. Actually, the last one has more strength, more body, because it was partly made with timber. So with red meat, maybe it is not the most straightforward proposal. I guess there is no problem with that, but usually we propose to use sparkling wines with a base of red grapes. some of the white ones are made on the basis of red grapes, like Mania. This is very typical in Champagne. So these sparkling wines, they're based on red wine. So you can make a white wine with red grapes, and we need to remove the contact with the skin. And there are some champagnes that we call Blanc de Noir. They are white, but they're made with red grapes. Even though these wines are not red, they have the structure of a red wine, more body, more rugosity, so they can fit into the table better with white meat or even red meat, or they can accompany a whole meal. So we need to look for sparkling wines that have more structure, that have more body. As you said before, there's still a long way to go in the world of sparkling wines. In Galicia, it's almost experimental, only for the past 10 years. So what level have we reached? When are we going to get the top level and to be as equal as many French wines? I think that we have very good quality sparkling wine, but we cannot compare with others that have been making quality sparkling wines for so many years. It takes some time. We need to streamline some of the details. So once you make good quality wines, making excellent wines is something that has to be related to small details, almost artisanal, and this takes years of evolution. To make wines evolve, it takes you 1 year, and you only harvest once a year, so you need to wait for 1 year to see the results. So when enologists speak about the number of bullets they have left, maybe you are 40 or 50, how many harvests do I have left to reach the wine I'd like to make? And they are not so many. You cannot run so many tests. But of course, we will get there, and I think we're making progress to get there. Any other questions? Okay, so let's talk about the third wine. As I said, it is a special wine as well. It is called Farah Del Palomar, and it is a top producer from Rías Baixas. This is one of the most exclusive wines they produce. These are some of the oldest vineyards in Rías Baixas. The vines are pre-phylloxeric. You know the story of phylloxera, this insect that devastated 2/3 of the vineyards all over Europe. It eliminated plants. So these are pre-phylloxera plants. The soil was quite sandy, and phylloxera finds it difficult to reproduce there. So they're very special. They're called wines of Pie Franco. There were no grafts in the vineyards, so because it was the way to fight the phylloxera, and this didn't happen in this case. And they are matured in big wooden barrels, and the contribution of oxygen makes the wine evolve and become more complex, and it spends 9 months of maturing on the lees. More complex, different aromas. The color is more evolved. It is only logical, more oxidation, more contribution of oxygen. The color has evolved more. And let's see what you think when you smell it. So when you smell it, it changes a lot versus a traditional Albarino. It is not just fruit. There are some flavors of oxidation. Think about cut, oxidated apple. There are some aromas of oxidation, some toasted aromas, some input of wood. So it is more complex. When you smell it, the fruit seems to be more ripened, and some pineapple touches here. Honey, filling of flowers, and in the mouth we can see that this wine is highly mineral. There's much debate in the world of wine, whether wine is mineral or not, if soils impact wines. This is usually associated to older vineyards with deep roots. That way the wines are more complex. We can call it minerality, or some others call it differently, but there is an added complexity in this wine. So let's taste it. I guess you're willing to do it. So look at the feeling of oxidation. The fruit is not fresh anymore. It's not the same wine typology. Well, there are different tastes, but the wine has totally changed, and apparently the fruit has evolved, and it is almost like honey, like apple puree. It's different. And this vineyard has less than half an hectare. Only 200 bottles are produced of this wine, so not everybody has to like it. So this is a really old vineyard, so they are trying to do something different in this case. Can you feel how the feeling of body has increased, more volume? White meat is perfect for this wine, and you need white meat or even fatty fish for this wine, because maybe just shellfish could not match it, maybe fatty fish or baked baked cod, rather. And the acidity is good, but it has gone down. It is more mature. The alcohol content has increased slightly, so something has changed. It's very different. So now I'm going to ask you to please take a sip of the first wine, the sparkling one. So by comparing, we learn about the features of the different wines. So go to wine number 2 and please observe the difference. So it's more acid, fresher. The fruits are fresher, less complexity, less tinges. And both of them are 100% Albarino, but they are very different. So which one did you like the most? What is your favorite style? You can see there is huge variety. Number 2. Yes, number 2. More interesting. Number 3. Number 2. 1, okay. Even though all of them are Albarino, in Galicia, did you consider a specific wine with specific features, and you can say this is the traditional prototype for Albarino? With regard to these 3, the one that is considered Albarino is number 2. In terms of prototypes, so it has to do with the freshness and citrics and stony fruits. Any other questions? Number 2? Number 1? Which one did you like the most? All of them are different. Number 1? Well, apparently the number 1 is their favorite. Okay, so I'm happy we shared this journey across the wines of Rías Baixas, and I hope we will be able to share this with many other visitors that come here to enjoy our Viking past and our delicious wines as well. Thank you very much. Big round of applause.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you for this great presentation and this wine tasting. I'm sure we all enjoyed it. And we are about to finish now. So we hope you've all enjoyed it. And now we are going to continue with this official closing ceremony by the territorial delegate of Xunta de Galicia in Pontevedra, Mr. Luis López Dieguez. And we're going to take some pictures, some family pictures, and later on we will take other group pictures as well. Okay, then, so maybe we can start with the closing remarks. Luis, thank you very much for attending, for answering our call. And now we will give you the floor.
Bueno, muy...
Yeah, let's wait.
Estamos... Sí.
Very good day to everyone. Thank you for assisting to this day that mixes Viking culture and wine culture, two areas and issues that are of great importance regarding culture, economy, and any other aspect. I would like to thank the organization of this event, this chapter of Alvarinho that has been 60 years promoting the Alvarinho Festival, also the organizing of the Kadoda Council that has been organizing 63 years the Viking Festival. These are two festivals that are a part of the international culture and touristic interest that out of the 6 that we have in this province, and they are very important in Galicia, and this is important in terms of promotion, and that is why we support as Xunta de Galicia and Xacobeo 2021-22. I think this is an open space, so I will take my mask out, so I don't think the wine you would take it with the mask, so I will also take it out. And then I would like to thank the authorities that are here present, like the mayor of Kadoda, Alberto Garcia. I would like to thank his attendance and implication in this issue, also the value of important figures linked to the Viking culture and the wine culture, highlighting the director of the Archaeological Museum of the Stavanger. I didn't pronounce it very well, but Ole Madsen, that has honored us with his presence here today and with his explanations about the Vikings, which is a people that also today makes some part of Galicia, and shares with the Portuarian chief of Villa Garcia, that also is very admirable on my part, and also representing the Popular Party here in Kadoda and in other towns. So thank you very much. This day that is linking the power of Vikings and the taste of wine in Galicia also reflects the the strengths of the touristic resources that we have in Galicia, and is like a lever to improve the recognition of our region of Galicia, and is re-emerging as a fashion destiny to travel. And as I said here, the sanitary guarantee, but also because of its many attraction in Kadoda, the Viking culture, and wines are very important, appealing aspects of our culture. The promotion of the Rías Baixas wines and also the sailing routes linked to Santiago's Way, as the Xacobea, Mar de Arousa, and Rio Ulla, or even the Vikings routes, which is the second that is more important in the whole continent after the Santiago's Way, as it was certified by the Council of Europe recently. For the Viking people, as you know, wine was a refined beverage that only the higher classes could drink. We took this reference in Galicia to maintain our wines with the highest standards that are certified with recognitions and awards internationally. And also, we universalize the consumption in the territory, and also with the millions of tourists that we receive in Galicia that taste our wines. But also, our wines travel, as Vikings did, to around the world to get to all tables in restaurants around the planet. Wines from Rías Baixas, they move as the Nordic warriors around all countries, and they conquer their peoples as they did with their quality and their taste. So in short, to conclude, thank you very much for your event, for the honor to close this event representing Xunta de Galicia, and I hope today and in the future we will continue to promote and market our culture and the Viking roots in Santiago's Way, and our wines also, and our beloved Galicia. Thank you very much. That's it.
Pues
So all has been said. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed this day.